regional leaders and BFFs around the nation focused on strengthening the American manufacturing ecosystem and our manufacturers. I'm Matt Bogosian, Executive Director of AMCC, and want to just kick off the call and say welcome. I hope you're having a good summer. It's certainly a busy one. For those that are new to AMCC, these Monday morning calls come in two flavors. One, a roundtable, which we're going to have today, where folks can raise issues and opportunities and challenges, best practices in the chat, or raising their hand when we get to the conversation. To kick it off, if you wouldn't mind, please putting your name and affiliation in the chat to get going right now. So some mornings like we said, we're going to have a roundtable today. Other mornings we have a presentation from one of our regions or one of our BFFs trying to strengthen the American manufacturing ecosystem in regions across the country. In the last 2 weeks, we've had presentations, one from some of our regional leaders from Ohio talking about capital access, how we're going to bring more capital to our manufacturers and the ecosystem of support around them. Last week, we had a presentation by our BFF friends from the Department of Commerce, the Economic Development Administration, about the Recompete pilot program for regions to compete to strengthen their manufacturing ecosystem and the employment, in places around the country where there's a low percentage of working age employed people. So David can put in the chat a link to our recorded presentation. So if you're interested in those two previous presentations or any of the previous Monday morning calls, you can easily check it out on our website. Like I said, this is I'm not in my normal setting here. I'm lucky enough to be in Hampton Roads, Virginia. David Van Sicklen, our operations director, and I, and some of our BFFs from EDA and other organizations are here. This is part of AMCC's roadshows that we are sharing best practices and learning best practices from regions that are organizing however they're organizing, from industry-led initiatives to state-led initiatives to federal intervention initiatives. And so thanks to the leadership here in the Hampton Roads area, we've co-created an AMCC Roadshow visit. We also have a link on our website for previous AMCC Roadshow reports. So if you can check out where else we've been in the country. And these are totally co-created events. And in this particular case, the Hampton Roads area was designated as a defense manufacturing community under the DoD Defense Manufacturing Community Support Program. And so we just have a great couple of packed days down here. I want to thank all our partners down here for co-creating this event. And it happened right on the time of our Monday call. So as we've done in the past, we're hosting it from here, but this is a normal AMCC call, and we're going to have a roundtable. So if you have issues that you want to bring to the fore, please put them in chat or raise your hand. It's great to see so many of our awesome partners around the country. Now, let me get this straight. I see some of our leaders from Utah and Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania together. Petra, Talinda, tell us what's going on there.
Yeah, we were wondering if you were going to notice that, Matt. Pittsburgh and Utah are pretty far apart, and yet here we are together.
So tell us a little bit about how that happened and kind of the benefits of region to region best practices exchange.
Well, I'm on my way to the America Makes annual MMX, which is membership meeting exchange in Youngstown, Ohio. And to get to Youngstown, Ohio, some of you may know, you have to land in Pittsburgh. And so when I realized that, I contacted Petra and said, hey, let's get together and share ideas and practices and be on the call together. So that's how I ended up in Pittsburgh. And then I think you all know that on Wednesday, Hewat, who I don't know if Hewat's on the call today, but Hewat is moderating a panel at the MMX on the Defense Manufacturing Community Support Program. And so that's pretty exciting to be able to share some of those best practices.
Well, that's great. It's good to see you both, and glad to hear about those exchanges. And for those new to AMCC, going way back to that IMCP program, that's just kind of the consistent building of trust between one region and another, the sharing of best practices, which is what we're trying to do, and so many of the other trends that are happening, in states and in regions. And it's cool now the federal government is getting into the act with a lot of these consortia initiatives. Before we turn to just a round robin, I want to highlight, as I do every Monday, a few things from the weekly AMCC update that goes out, where we share best practices. If David, if you're put your name in the chat and your email, if somebody is not on the on that news feed that comes out at the end of every week, just send David your email and he'll get you on that. So from last week, we highlighted something that everybody should be tuned into, and if you can make it there to DC area, September 12th to the 14th, we have a Manufacturing Momentum Summit, thanks to our BFFs at the Department of Defense, Mantech, and many other partners, including the Center for Regional Economic Competitiveness. We've been trying to co-create a gathering, a network of networks gathering, and now it's starting to come to fruition. So in the chat, I believe will be a link to that opportunity. If you're not going, or parts of your network are not going there, check it out. It's kind of low barrier to entry and a good engagement group for this type of work that we're doing. Let's see, another item in there where, like I said, there's lots of cool things happening in our regional visits. After we visit here at Hampton Roads, we're going down to North Carolina, and we've been invited, and you see this in the AMCC update. We've been invited to something called the North Carolina Deaf Tech Friday call. And so they have something that sounds, and we'll find out on Friday, but we invite everybody to join the call too if you're interested. But it sounds to me kind of like this AMCC national call, but at a regional level, focused on kind of the more cutting edge parts of manufacturing entrepreneurialism. So anyway, we're going to learn about it, but they said it's open to the AMCC community for those folks that want to tap into that Friday call, and that's in the AMCC update too. And then we have a couple of links in there, kind of following up on what we learned from the Ohio Capital Access Group. There's an Equity Impact Investments Initiative that the feds are doing, and they have a call for applications on that. And then another resource in the AMCC update about revolving loan funds for business growth. So just a couple of tidbits there to get it going. Now, David, from here, I can't see chats in terms of what people might want to be talking about on an open Monday call. So maybe you could pull that up. That would be good.
Well, now one of them is, as Liz Henry mentioned, it is, or sorry, as Kathy Collins mentioned, it's Happy Tech Hubs Day.
So Kathy, thank you for that. Of course, we have a lot of regions around the country putting in their applications for the Tech Hub program. So, of course, if you recall, the Senate leaders were calling the Tech Hub program that was built into the Chips and Science Act IMCP with $10 billion. So we're just at the beginning of this process. And it is a big challenge to get these applications in. And I know many of you are excited to finish that and get that the final submission done. I know we just found out to Linda in Utah You had, your region had one. Is it, have you guys clicked the button of submit?
Well, we were planning to hit the button submit on the weekend, but we've ended up, we'll do it at noon Utah time. Today, we're waiting for a couple more letters of commitment, which we were very relieved on Friday when EDA dropped the edge requirement. I don't, for those of you who have not been involved with the process, every letter, every organization that you got commitment from, you had to have them register an edge. So it became a very cumbersome process, but they dropped that requirement on Friday. So now we should be getting our last letter of commitment, and then we'll submit today at noon.
Well, congratulations to those of you that have gone through the good hard work of bringing your regional coalitions together. And this manifestation, there's a lot more to come. You know, and as we have learned over the years, you know, building those relationships and continuing to compete for these designations, you know, builds up that muscle of interaction at the regional level. And that's what's happening down here at Hampton Roads. We're learning a lot already in this early morning. I want to thank Mark Whitney and Alan Baker for hosting us down here. And we have here at the table, you know, some important kind of representatives of regional coalitions around the country, industry partners, state leaders, workforce leaders, and the federal folks that are intervening. And so we just had they're partnered with universities down here at Old Dominion. We got a presentation about a lot of very cool workforce technology training activities. And we're lucky right at the table to have Larry Horn from Newport News Shipyard. And I asked Larry if on this call he could give us a nutshell about in this region what it means for a big shipbuilder like this to have these kinds of smarter tools and tactics for workforce training. So Larry, why don't you say hi to the nation and tell us a little bit about in terms of the metrics, you know, the numbers, what it means in terms of being able to more effectively train your folks with some of this AI and virtual tools and tactics.
Certainly, thank you, Matt. Welcome
Do you
the
speak up?
nation. Welcome the nation. My name is Larry Horn. I work for workforce development over at Newport News Shipbuilding. If you're unfamiliar with us, we are a division of Huntington Ingalls, and we build the nuclear aircraft carriers and are one of two companies that build the nuclear submarines. That would be Electric Boat, General Dynamics, and Newport News Shipbuilding. For the past 7 to 8 years, we have been having a workforce demand issue. And the only way we found to really help with that is through working with the Old Dominion University, VMOS, Maritime Industrial Base Ecosystem, and some of the other organizations here around Hampton Roads, and add technology into some of our training. One of the things that we found that exists in all of our training in 9 classes is there's about 1/3 of a instructor's guide that is dedicated to nothing but simple math and measurement and how to read a ruler. We're looking into technological ways of getting that into the student's hand pre-class, such that they can come in and either test out or find out where they need to start within that class. A couple of numbers I'll just throw out for you is the shipyard is hiring somewhere in the neighborhood of 15,000 employees over the next 7 to 8 years. And That does not include our friends in the repair industry. That does not include our friends in the wind industry. If you know, we're setting 276 offshore wind towers. That does not include the terrible expansion of the road system and the bridge and tunnel system in the roads. So there's a shortage of demand. There's a high demand, very shortage for workforce. Over the past year, Newport News Shipbuilding has worked with those I mentioned in partnership to train nearly 3,000 individuals in either 2 or 3 week jobs. And one of the simplest jobs that it's not a simple job, but one of the simplest explanations that I can give you would be, we have a 2-week class that is taught in maritime deck electricians class. After 2 weeks, that individual can come from knowing zero about anything maritime, not even knowing how to put air in the tire of the car, to being able to rough in. And if people who don't know what rough in a house is, that means pull all of the electrical cable in your house and terminate it into that little gray box that you probably have in your laundry room, where when the wife turns on the microwave, I'm being specific to my wife, the microwave and the hairdryer all at once, I got to go reset the breaker panel. Out of those 3,000, we've hired, to be exactly, we trained 2,850. We've hired 92% of those. And some of the benefits that we get out of this is, I'll give you an attrition comparison.
And a money comparison. How much money are you saving with these smarter practices?
Without going in any large number of detail, Newport News spends many $1 million per year in in-house training and recertification. The number somewhere between 89 and 91 million per year. So you figure the math. In doing so, we're bringing these individuals directly in out of these training classes, going directly to the deck plates. They're not having to go through, they may go through a boot camp, which might be a 2 or 3 day, you learn a little bit more about the shipyard, but you already have the foundation and the fundamental skill sets ready to go and be a contributor from day one in the shipyard. And that is saving us an enormous amount of money. We are doing all types of analytical analyses to prove which ones are yielding the highest gain, which ones may not be gaining us any direct funding, but they're gaining us time to talent. Okay.
And it's these kinds of examples. So, we're delighted to meet Larry, because we want to learn about, what they're learning in terms of smarter workforce interventions and building metrics around that. And we need, as you all know, we need all kinds of partners to participate. And, we're delighted here because we've seen in our road shows how the variance of state government interaction, it's pretty wide. I remember up in, Carmen, up in Connecticut there, Connecticut has a chief manufacturing officer. They have a statewide manufacturing strategy. We're going to an AMCC roadshow. I see some of our California partners there. There's a long stream of activity by the state government that may be soon leading to more full-throated state leadership around the manufacturing cornerstone of America. And so, Tom Krabs, who works in the governor's office here in Virginia, is with us. Thanks, Tom, for being here and adding value. You want to give a quick hello to other folks around the nation?
It's great to see everyone online. Thank you for especially the fellow states. Many I recognize through our defense manufacturing community partnerships and manufacturing extension partnerships. Great to see it today. And you took my line.
Oh, okay.
We really are looking to expand our position in this space, particularly in the defense manufacturing sectors. We have a long history of military support and defense manufacturing. We're in the seat of some of the largest shipbuilding and ship repair in the world. We have fantastic port, rail, and highway systems that support a very diverse and deepening supply chain here in Virginia and with our surrounding regions. So great to be here today and look forward to showing up more.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Tom. So
Hey, Matt, there are two questions for Larry in the chat.
great. 2 questions for Larry in the chat. I'll just relay them. Can you tell me?
Yes, the first is from Dean Peckham. What is the projected retirement at the shipyard over the next?
The question is from Dean, what's the projected retirement
Yeah,
rate, I guess, yeah.
we project the average ship builder over the next 2 to 3 years to be around the age of 35 years old. To answer that the other way, everybody's on the cliff at the shipyard.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
So you need to get young people, right?
Right.
And we've heard a lot about here and around the country. You know, Petra, I see you from Pittsburgh up there. I remember learning when we visited there in Pittsburgh about, you know, the campaign around keeping manufacturing cool to try to, you know, get down into the schools. They have a really cool simulation program here in Southern Virginia to try to inspire, you know, young students to I would call it like gamification of kind of early entry manufacturing. So you'd start to see when you do these roadshow visits, how if we could link some of these things together, we could really create a national kind of campaign and competition that could inspire a whole new generation of young people to prepare themselves, you know, to fill those jobs, Larry.
And Matt, if I can add a plug to that.
Please.
Next week on Monday, the 21st, neither Matt or myself will be available for this Monday call. So we'll have 2 guest presenters, Sarah Lee and Matt Fieldman. And Matt, if you're on right now, would you like to share the topic of next week's call? If not, I can.
Sure. So we will have Scott Dietz from Catalyst Connection talking about exactly what Matt was just talking about. How does Catalyst go into the schools, get young people excited about manufacturing careers? We'll look at the apps that they've created. We'll look at the programs they've created or help scale. It'll be a deep dive into how do you get young people excited about manufacturing from the Catalyst Connection / Pittsburgh perspective.
Great. Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, no, thank you. And the only reason we won't be on that call is because we're doing AMCC Roadshow in California. I see some of our California partners there. California Forward is a statewide organization that we have. We are partnered with to co-create 4 different stops in California. And I see some of our partners for each of those stops on there. So it's very exciting to see the momentum that is being expressed by regional leaders like you all. And it's great to get this generated in Southern Virginia. Super excited about that. So on these roundtables, we want to make sure we have space for folks to chime in about, you know, cool things they might be doing that other regions around the country could benefit from, or challenges you have. I mean, one of the best things that we've got going on is people going, I don't know how to get from here to there. Whatever you know, things that might matter to other regional manufacturing ecosystems. So David, if something comes in, you let me know. Otherwise, what I tend to do is I call on people, right? You know, so Dion Jackson, as we're heading to California, this is fair. We're going to have some meetings down there in California. Dion was kind of honchoing one of those older consortia competitions for the defense and aerospace manufacturing in Southern California. And so we're trying to reinvigorate some of that work down there. And they volunteered to be a part of an AMCC roadshow that's going to be happening next week. Dion, how do you assess the momentum in Southern California? One of the biggest regional manufacturing ecosystems in the country. Like, how do you see the trajectory of this work and your role in it? Yeah.
Hi, Matt. Yes, so there's a lot more interest in manufacturing going on in Southern California, partially because of the groundwork that we laid and partially because of all the work that the federal government is doing, and partially what the state's doing now with the SURF program, the California Economic Resilience and Recovery program. And so our role in that is going to be as a learning partner, helping with the evaluation of the regional planning and implementation for economic development in the state. We're also on the roadshow bringing together, highlighting one of our training facilities that was just generated by the manufacturer, saying we need more people trained in these new technologies. So that's with one of our community colleges. And then out of the collaboration that we had, one of our partners developed a program to work with those people on the autism spectrum, and because they make very, very good manufacturing technicians, both in machining and now in automation. Because of their attention to detail, they fit in very, very well. We're going to tour one of the companies that has hired some of those graduates as part of that as well. So that's a couple of highlights there.
Yeah, thanks, Dion. And super excited about that. And again, if you're interested in some of the takeaways from these AMCC roadshows, there's a link on our website. David Van Sicklen, our operations director, puts those things together. There's a little bit of lag time on those visits to reports, but that's a quick shortcut to get a sense of what we're learning from place to place. And David just dropped that in the chat. And I see that others are dropping some kind of announcements. Becky dropped one about a convene coming up in New Orleans. Becky, did you want to speak to that?
Sure, thank you. I just want to let you guys know that we're working with the Department of Labor and the National Space Council on a space industry manufacturing accelerator on September 6th. So it's a short timeline, but send me a note if you'd like one of our invitations. We're happy to forward that out to you. It should be ready by tomorrow. So
thanks, Becky. And for those that are new to the community and for those down here in Southern Virginia, there are 8 of these Department of Commerce EDA communities of practice, and they're organized around, some of them are organized directly around EDA programs like the Economic Development District and a particular program like the Jobs for the Future in that case. Others are more ubiquitous like ours. So we're the manufacturing community of practice. Sure, there's some EDA programs that support manufacturing, those are important, but there's Department of Energy initiatives, there's the Department of Defense initiatives, there's NSF initiatives, and they all relate. There's infrastructure. All of those 4 big pieces of legislation that went through the last couple of years all relate to strengthening the manufacturing ecosystem, from infrastructure to science and technology and so on. So so just a little education about that. It's a lot to learn. We have a lot of friends and helpers across the country who you can just learn from and just reach out. Some of our stakeholders say that's like your biggest thing. We have a podcast that's coming out, and I've interviewed some of you, and that's one of the things. I see Buckley Brinkman in Wisconsin, who we interviewed for the podcast. And one of the through lines that we get from regional leaders is to implore other regional leaders to reach out and engage. So we're not in this race to the bottom. I mean, we're in this massive competition, with dictatorships and we got a lot of challenges ahead, and we've got to overcome you know, some of the challenges that you have in a democracy about people not, you know, necessarily rowing in the same direction. So excited to have you all again this week, as we are every week. Looking forward to next week. Sorry I can't join you, but you're in good hands with Matt and Sarah Lee and others to continue the conversation for 30 minutes next week. In between now and then, good luck on the Tech Hub program and all of your other engagement. Another special thanks to our friends down here in Hampton Roads. So that concludes this week's AMCC call. Thanks so much, everybody.